One. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so fired up to have you join us today. Got a great guest today. I know I always say that, but before I call it the green room, we were talking about how powerful she can really save companies. I'm literally save companies. If you're one of those companies, you really need to listen. We dedicated this podcast exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. That purpose is a servant's heart. Think about how you can approach your work and your lives with that servant's heart, but more importantly, what difference can you make? And the show is created to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to make an impact in your world. If you're not focusing on that, that's not part of your purpose, start today. And while you're listening today, I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and serve others and what impact you create today. And the word is today. Listen to my incredible guest and go out and serve somebody today. Guarantee you it's like Christmas morning. You're going to love it. And I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon Alliance. It's a community of thought leaders with high income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're from very diverse industries. What they're building is a community to impact and change the world. If you want to be part of this community, I'd love to get you information on that. Just reach out to me and we'll do that. With that being said, impact and change in the world. Well, CEOs are important. And I've talked to many companies over the last 8 weeks that don't have a leader. You know, the founder is not always the CEO. I've learned that over my many guests, and we're going to learn about that today. So why not bring in a CEO for 3, 6, 7 months, 8 years, whatever that is, to help right the ship or move the ship forward? That's what we're going to talk about, plus much, much more. I want to welcome to the show, Deb. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, Dee, for having the opportunity to speak to your audience and talk about things that are near and dear to my heart, servant leadership, and all that comes with. Thank you so much.
A CEO with a servant leadership is a successful CEO, I say. Just my thoughts. Audience, you can critique me if you want. Let's talk about drop-in CEO. I told you before the show, I just love that phrase. How did it come about? What does it really mean?
So thank you, Steve, for that question. I get that question a lot, and it's really kind of a dumb thing happened. It just fell out of my mouth, the drop-in CEO during a podcast interview. I was being interviewed in the early day of starting my business, and the host asked me, he said, Deb, what is it that you do? And trying to find my elevator pitch and sharing what I do. I said, well, I'm kind of like the drop-in CEO. I drop into organizations, assess the landscape with the senior leadership. We solve the business issue, but also elevate the talent for a lasting impact. And so we finish up the rest of the interview. We go offline and he says, Deb, where did you come up with the drop-in CEO? He said, it was brilliant. And I'm saying, I don't know. It just came out of my mouth. And then I realized I was channeling this leader for when I was in mid-career, part of a pre-IPO company. We were in trouble. I was the head of quality, and they dropped in a CEO. And I remember how he made us feel. He rolled up his sleeves and partnered with myself as the head of quality and the VP of operations, and we solved the business issue. They showed us a few new tricks and elevated our confidence to be able to lead the ship into an IPO. And when we were getting ready for IPO, they pull him out because he had done his job. But I remember how he made me feel. They popped in new people for the IPO. And that's where the drop-in CEO comes from. It is the way that I and my business operate. We will drop in, hopefully not in crisis, but at a transition point for a CEO for a company. And we'll jump right over, we'll run into the fire together, partner, and solve the issue. But I clearly believe it's about helping that C-suite leader, that leadership team change their mindset, change something, change the playbook. Or they need to elevate the capability of the people. So that's how the drop-in CEO brand came. It took me 6 months to own it. And then came the podcast and everything afterwards and the branding. Deb Coviello is the drop-in CEO for organizations.
Superpower you have, and when you do this, is have a set of eyes outside the organization. You can see things that they see every day and go, oh my, and you probably hear this all the time, Deb. Oh my God, I didn't see that. Talk about the power of that, because that's super powerful.
Well, I just finished doing an assessment at a company where I did have to report into the CEO. It's a very significant business entity for which they're going to see huge growth. And they went in with tunnel vision. They said, I think we need this kind of treatment to enable us to move to the next level. And they gave me full reign to go in and out of their facility, see everything. And it wasn't just quality, it was service, it was operational efficiency, it was safety and health and lean. I mean, these are all the different lenses that I have accumulated over the years.
Yeah.
And yes, I did validate that we needed to implement X. But I said, if you want systemic growth, not just trying to get a result and get those P&L numbers and answer to the private equity company, I said, these are the other things that systemically you need to fix. And we had some contentious conversations, but they did realize, yes, what he thought he needed, yes, but we need everything else. Because, and that's what leaders do, is they need to be able to first have the courage to ask for an external view and bring in those eyes so they have a full view and they can develop a holistic strategy. And ultimately, what that does, you not only achieve the issue, the growth, whatever that
Yeah.
is, market share, you leave your legacy because you cared enough for that external view.
Love that story. And that leads to so many great questions, but contentious and not fighting, but there's conversations. How important is when the drop-in CEO, Deb, comes in and take action or don't take action?
Well, meaning when we're having that conversation with that leadership team,
Right.
well, it's not about action or inaction. I think it's more about risk, risk
Okay.
management.
Okay.
And people will, well, we've never had that issue before. We shouldn't be spending that kind of money. I'd rather do this than that. I have seen time and time again when we decide to throw the dice as leaders, darn it, the planets will line up and you're the next one in the news with that recall because you threw the dice and said it's not happened yet. But conditions, if the conditions exist, let's just say you have a highly trained workforce that they know what they're doing, and then things change. You start growing, you bring in the new temp people, haven't had enough time to realize all of that tribal knowledge, and then the planets line up, the equipment doesn't work a certain way, the supervisor wasn't around that day, they're left to their own device, they don't know certain things, and guess what? You have that recall. I talk to leaders in terms of what is the risk and outcome. You can decide not to do something now, but be aware the ramifications of that decision, because I hope it never happens. Some of those risks, those bad things, loss of customers, disappointment, loss of loyalty and brand and market share. But I've been in business a long time to see short-sightedness or chasing results is going to come back and get you. And I seek to work with highly aware teams and leaders that understand it's about peace of mind and having everything right and in place because you care about the people and mitigating risk.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
I love it. And I'm thinking off the top of my head, it's October 25th, 2024. I do that because people could hear this a year later. The E. coli situation with McDonald's is happening right now. That CEO has a lot to work with. That's where you, as a drop-in CEO, you partner with these companies. You don't take over the company. Let's talk about that. I love what you do with that.
Yeah, so my tagline, and again, I have been going through some change management on myself. It really is a partnership, a partnering with the C-suite leaders to navigate challenges with confidence. One could say, Deb, you've never been a CEO. How can you claim the drop-in CEO? Well, I say nay to that, but I actually say it's really about a mindset, because whether you've had a title or not, the line worker, the person on the front line, the McDonald's worker closest to your consumers, if they
Mm-hmm.
can be able to explain the purpose of this service, this is how I'm in service, this is how I prepare the meal, this is why it's important, here are the ramifications if I don't follow the recipe, that person understands the values and what's important to the consumers. Why can't that person be a CEO? So it's really about a mindset, regardless of what your functional and title or background. I become valuable to those CEOs for the highly aware CEO that realizes they don't have a full perspective and they want a trusted partner. So, yeah, let me take on the title of the drop in CEO, but just know I become anchored onto that leader to be able to, for them to see and ultimately achieve peace of mind. So, yeah, it's an unfortunate thing with the E. coli thing. If not them, it's somebody else.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go fire anybody. I wouldn't say the CEO needs to step down, but I would perhaps go deeper into how do the conditions or management practices exist for those unfortunate circumstances.
Well, McDonald's, if you're listening, anybody in the executive, hire her because you said one thing really just you didn't gloss over, but went through it is make sure the frontline worker understands that message because they're talking to the consumer every day. That's such a great multi-million dollar comment because people are drive up, hey, you got E. coli, your burger, they have this great, and it could be scripted, but it comes from somebody like you that's looking for perspective as a partner to go. It's such a perfect scenario so hire her. That's the bottom line. Um, and
I
we'll
didn't, I
we'll
didn't pay
talk.
Steve to say that,
No,
but
she
thank you,
did
Steve.
not. No, that was coming right from my understanding exactly what you do. You've got these three L's that I love: lift, light, lead. I tried to find out what you meant by that, but now I want to hear it from you. What does that mean? Lift, light, lead.
So, my advice to others, if you got a crazy idea or you're thinking of starting an entrepreneurial journey, never throw away the napkin. Never throw away the napkin that you wrote those early ideas on. And so while I was sitting under the tutelage of another consultant when I first started my business, I was thinking, I'm reading social media, you have to have a brand. You pick three letters, three words that cover or signify what you stand for. And I wrote down lift, light, and lead. And at that time, I never went anywhere with them. I said, they're kind of hokey. Maybe I elevate people and such. But then I pulled out the napkin, I got a photograph of it, and I realized at the core that's who I am. So when we think about lift, light, and lead, my role is to go into organizations and lift up those leaders, not to say who's not doing the right thing, but shine a light on what are their gifts, their strengths, and opportunities, because it's easier to elevate a strength, work on an opportunity, than to fix people and their weaknesses and ultimately help leaders be greater leaders. So I go in, I see the forest for the trees, we lift
Mm-hmm.
them up, shine a light on their gifts, leverage that, help leaders lead their legacy. So hence media 3L, 3L stands for lift, light, and lead, which is the core of who I am and how I go into an organization and the lens that I use.
Purpose is one of the most important things in a company. Both of our companies or whoever's listening better have your why, your passion, or your desire, what you're doing for. How old's that napkin, real quick?
5.5 years.
Listen to that, all you 5.5 years. That's awesome because
Yeah,
people forget
it's
that stuff.
it's an evolution. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny. I think one of the things I want to say is leaders or maybe up and coming leaders, even the CEO. I said, you could write down some things. Oh, they didn't go for that idea. They didn't like that proposal. Don't throw anything away. Hoard that stuff. I've been hoarding stuff for the past 8, 9 years because I'm a voracious content creator. I'm a thought leader. And as you can tell, I'm Jersey and I like to talk. But all those ideas have to be captured. So wherever you're at in business, at the top and the middle, save those ideas because you never know. And I actually recently had to go through, I got to find that PowerPoint because I want to bring it forward for this customer. And I'm saying, oh my God, look at all this stuff I've generated. There's the napkin that I wrote those early ideas. Oh my God, I could repurpose that content over there. And you say, oh my God, damn, I'm good. I had these
Yeah.
great ideas. So again, leaving your legacy, save your own stuff because you may be able to pull that out at the right situation, you as a leader, and be able to provide your insights or inspire other. So yeah, back of the napkin and save all that other stuff. Repurposing saves my life.
$1 million tip right there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that don't do that. And I've done a little bit now. I'm going to do more of it because of you. So I love being a host. I get to learn as well as the audience. So awesome. Let's talk about your book you have now. And I'm excited. You got another book coming here in the near future. Talk about those books.
Yeah. So also through some coaching, Deb, you talk a lot, you put out so much content, but what's your system? What's your process? What is unique? What is your intellectual property? You need to put it down in writing. So finally, in 2021, I released the CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on track. Because from my experience and what I saw was missing, yes, we can put people, process, and tools in place and fix any problem. Yeah, that's what they tell you in your Six Sigma training. Once you get to a leader, there is so much more about human dynamics And as I said before, stop chasing results and achieve peace of mind. I had to distill all that into the book. So that came out in 2021. It's got a beautiful cover. It will look wonderful on your desk. It's a conversation piece, but honestly, it's really written towards the CEO. You need to think differently. I wrote the book to them, for them. You need to check your mindset, your leadership style. The old playbook doesn't work now. I'm excited to share. I'm actually now finally recording the audio book, which will come out the end of 2024. So you can hear this lovely voice speak directly to you, the CEO, the CEO's compass. But Deb's not done yet. I have more insights that I've been curating over the years where I see CEOs go off track. And a part of it also is not just how they lead, but leaving their legacy and how they lead and build up the teams of their people. I was marketing to people, middle leaders, to say, hey, buy my course, buy my leadership stuff. You know, you've hit a roadblock. You can't move up in the organization to the C suite. Well, nobody was buying. And then I realized it's the CEO, it's the key decision maker that says, not only do I want to make sure I got a good organization, leave my legacy, lift the other. So the book's name is called The New CEO Playbook. Stop chasing results and start pursuing peace of mind. And there's many facets to it, but a lot of it is if you got a well-oiled workforce that you've invested in and cared in, been a servant leader, there's a lot of things that you need to make sure that they understand in order to carry on the great work that you've done. So that's coming out in 2025. The New CEO Playbook. Stop chasing results, start pursuing peace of mind.
Love that tagline. That's a servant heart right there. Or everybody's chasing way too many results. They're being transactional, not transformational. And that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, that could all be a whole nother podcast episode
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
just, it's the demise of most leaders. And I got to understand this.
Can you tell us a story? We're coming pretty close. We got a little bit more time of somebody you work with and the results.
Yeah, that's my question on my show because obviously Deb can talk a dude talk, but what has been the impact? I will tell you that fortunately, this leader brought me in not during a time of crisis. Thank goodness. I want to talk to more leaders like that. But the customer requirements were changing, and they had a good business, a family business, second generation. It was humming along. And then the customer said, I need you to do this. It was a quality standard. They had no idea how to implement it. I need you to do this because if you don't, you can't stay on the core supplier list. We'll talk about the livelihood of this company potentially losing income and everything that they've worked for. So they had the understanding to say, I need to find a partner to help me with this. So I was referred to them and I didn't know if I could do it. And here's the thing, I had the capability of doing it, but they said, guess what? We need to get this done in 3 months. And I was like, oh my God, it takes companies 12 to 18 months to implement a quality management system. I said, okay, we will figure this out together. Meanwhile, they're deer in the headlight. I'm deer in the headlight as well. How the hell am I going to do this thing? But what we did was it was a very collaborative environment. We rallied the troops. We made it so simple, leveraged what was already a strength and developed all the systems and processes, even some others. But three things came out of this. We got certified after they had one rejection, one nonconformance. And they were so hell-bent on getting that certification. But what we realized was one of your people made a decision that went against everything you're trying to do. They were more in favor of sales and meeting with the customers, and they violated a principle. This told them they needed to go back to their values and their culture, helping people make the right decisions in service to their customers, not just to check the box and answer a sales call. So they gave them some pause. And then along the way, when we were done with this project and they sustained it, they just wanted to say to me, said, Deb, I said, we couldn't have done this without you. You were gentle, you were kind, you navigated us through the process. We achieved the outcome. And guess what? That business has doubled in size and they are in a new facility and they're growing. And I can't wait to see where they go.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. And that's the power of the partnership working side by side, collaborative, the word you used, instead of coming in and going, Steve, you need to change this, 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 and this. And there's advisors that do that. I've talked to them. And then that may work, but I like probabilities. Dropping CEO, you're a much, much higher probability of making that ROI change and making the culture change and all the changes that need to be happening depending on what you're doing. The other thing I want to mention is you talk about working with a CEO that's successful. You love working with them. Hey, if you're out there and successful, do you want to go from 5 to 50 million? I know a place you can go to help you with that. That's what I love. And that's a servant's heart. I'm not going to work with the people that aren't working. because I know they can, they're going to pay me and probably pay me well. I want to work with the people that are winning because I want to win right along with them. And I love that. So I had to mention that.
But the message is most of the time, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm called in at a
Yeah.
time of crisis where they're fighting fighters, crisis if they're losing customers. I'm happy, very happy to run into the fire with you. But that's not the best place. And I often, and this is just my little public relations announcement, is have the courage to ask for help before it gets too late, because you may not be able to recover. You may lose people along the way, and that'll be your demise.
You look good in a firefighter suit too. So I could see you jumping in, running right into that fire with that ass ready to roll. Let's go, guys. That would actually be a pretty good meme. Um, last thing, when it comes to somebody listening, I always like to ask this: what's one tip you can give them? Going, I want to be a better CEO.
I have to reiterate this.
Mhm.
Have the courage to ask for help, because this is a key principle in both of the books, is that you may have been a rock star and your playbook has served you for a great deal of time. That is why you are the CEO in a place of leadership. You have to have the awareness that sometimes the conditions change that you've never faced before and you don't know how to get out of it, and you will muscle through it. Most people will work people harder to keep it at bay and ignore. But the leaders that I like to work with are those that have the awareness to sense something is changing and realize that people turn to you to realize you don't have to know all the answers, but know some smart people. And again, have the courage to ask for help so you can leave your legacy, have your trust, and maintain what you've built together with your team.
Well, audience, I'm just going to tell you what she just said there is spoken by, I've talked to some very powerful leaders, have led millions of people. That's the first thing they said. I have to have courage. They have to have courage. It's one of the major components of being a leader. I'm so glad you said that, because I just learned that personally a couple months ago, and I keep hearing it over and over, because it's funny when you learn something. It kind of like when you buy a red car, you
See
see
all the
red
red
cars.
cars?
Yeah, there's a phrase some doctor told me. I don't remember what it is, but thank you for sharing that. It's so powerful.
My pleasure.
Uh, I love to end with a little improv at the end of the show. So I've got a
Sure.
question for you. So you've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You're going to have 3 guests, dead or alive. Why? Which guests are you going to invite? Why are they going to be invited? And what food would you order?
Oh gosh, I'm a Jersey girl.
Yeah,
Linguine and white clam sauce. My husband's uncle made the best, and I've never been able to match it. So good
well, that's
Italian
great.
restaurant. And what I'm going to do though is if there's only 3 chairs, one of my children's going to sit on the other's lap so I can have my entire family with me. There's a lot of
Beautiful.
wonderful people, but I live for my family. I used to think my legacy was to leave a lasting impact. They're going to change the world. Well, no, I'm changing the world, but the best thing is to have my husband and my 3 children at that table with me. They've had my back. They're my cheering section, and they're going to carry on this legacy. So I'm sorry. They are productive citizens of society. They're famous in my eyes, and
It's
that's all that
beautiful.
matters. Family.
Oh, Deb, that is so beautiful. And it's your table, so you can cheat and have one sit on top of the other. We'll just bring a second, we'll bring a 5th chair in. I'm okay with that. That's really, you really improv. Well, Deb, you're a blessing. And I truly mean that. You care, you succeed, you help people move forward. It's not just about you, it's about helping others. That servant's heart. So I thank you so much for being a guest. I know people are listening going, how can I connect or support Deb? How can they do that?
So thank you so much for the opportunity to have your platform and talk to your audience. I'm very active on LinkedIn, Deborah A. Coviello, or the Drop-In CEO. It's me answering all those messages. Direct message me or go to my website, dropinceo.com. Go to my contact page, and again, book of some time. Let's have a conversation. Let's get to know each other and see how we can be in service to each other. Thank you again, Steve.
You're very welcome. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And here's why: it's a unique perspective. You have access to Deb. It's easier to find these shows if you want to listen to her over and over again. When you have this subscription, you can find the channel. I've got 20 subscriptions myself because I can easily find a podcast or a video I want to connect. But I think even more important, as you're listening to Deb, I want you to think about this and think hard. You hear something or hear multiple things she said, and you have a friend or a family that has a company, send the podcast, go, I just listened to this incredible woman. Listen to this podcast. I think she can help you. it's such a powerful way of getting that introduction to people. And maybe they're listening, oh, she's not for me, and that's okay. And Deb knows that. That's okay. But what a way to serve people more. And that's why I'm always thinking is serving. Take that link and just send it to them. Or, reach out to me and I'll get you that link as well. That's the power of that. Comment on the YouTube channel, critique the show, because me and Deb know it's about you, the audience. It's not about us. We're here, as I said earlier, motivate, inspire, and educate you. So any critiques and any comments for Deb, I'll make sure she gets them. I have all the information to get to her. And as always, me and Deb want to thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.